Also, what about the unorganized? How many unorganized businesses are there? In my office, though I am doing only ethical practice, we don't pay bribe in our office. We have never paid. 28 years, we have never paid bribe. And we are growing at 40% in spite of that. Yes, I'll explain that in little more detail. See, what they are saying is the producing state will lose. Why? Because the producing state is not selling all the goods within that state. Say West Bengal, you have an industry and all the goods are going to 10 different states. The income which is going to come from this GST will only partially be retained by the state. Most of the income will be shared. That particular destination based principle means the SGST part of it. The state GST part of it will not come to West Bengal at all. It will go to Tamil Nadu, Haryana, wherever you are sending. You will only get a part of the CGST. Now let me look at what is the other side of it. Even if you are a producing state. For producing you require services. For producing you require goods. For this you will get it from other states. Today you might be purchasing only in West Bengal. Why? Because you get credit. Why should I pay for transportation? You are not making effective purchases. In works contract, which is in real estate, there is a restriction. If you buy interstate, you cannot get into composition. There are so many restrictions which will disappear in GST. So all these items you will get from other states. That time West Bengal will gain. All services, till now you got no share of services. Neither Karnataka got anything, nor West Bengal got even 0 rupees out of service tax. Except whatever central devolution. That will also come to you, and services is growing. We have to realize by the time GST comes, service tax will be around 3.5 crores, 3.5 lakh crores. So you are having a huge amount of that income which is going to be shared. Says 75% of that 3.5 lakh crores will go to all the states. So that is an additional income for the states. Other than this, custom duty is around 2 lakh crores. In that, the major portion of CVD and SAD, which accounts for say 75% of the custom duty collected, which means 1.5 lakh crores, that will also devolve to the states, which hitherto you are not getting. So plus side is service tax and your custom duty, minus side is your sales outside the state. In my view, that statement is not correct. I had done one small analysis of Gujarat, 30,000 crores Gujarat is going to get, though they have opposed it. Maharashtra, 40,000 crores they will get additional under GST. They are all net producing states, right? But they will get more 40,000. On the other side, you put Kerala. Kerala has no production because you go put up a factory, one red flag will come. I think even in your state, red flag is not uncommon. So, yeah?
Colors have changed somewhat.
Colors have changed. Okay, colors have changed. Okay. They are nearer to the earth than the earth colors. But effect is the same, industry won't come. So, in Kerala, what is happening is that they will get enormous benefit because they are consuming only. So all the state, whatever state, Karnataka provides something, anybody provides, everything will go to Kerala. Kerala's indirect tax collection is going to double. So they will get enormous benefit. But producing states will not lose. I think if I look at West Bengal, I don't see any great advantage for you. On a comparative basis, yes, some other states may do better than you. I also should acknowledge Nandini, who has prepared this entire PPT from the material which was distributed to you, which is there in your material. Any other question? I think somebody else had something. Yeah, please. Yes, sir.
So my question is, initially you were talking of certain changes in the foreign trade policy this time, 3%, something like that. I could not follow it. Can you explain it, please?
This is not my agenda, but I'll give you a way to it. We have a website called Hiregangi Academy. You can please note down. Go to that. You have the FTP, Foreign Trade Policy. There is a small booklet. In fact, it has been done by one of the people from your region only. I think Harsh knows her. Mona Lisa Khuntia. She's from Orissa. She has prepared that booklet. It's available for you to download and look at what was the old policy and what is the new policy. Broadly. There are lots. FTP can be a one-day workshop. Huge amount of advantages are there for our clients, which clients may or may not know. I have found when I do audit, though I don't do FTP audit, I have been seriously thinking of adding FTP into indirect tax audit because of the value which is there in that audit. So I may not be able to explain all the things, but there have been some changes, and for service providers there is a significant change. 3% of your services. Look at your ITES.
Those who export the services.
Yes, more than 3% will get added to their bottom line, which is a very big amount. It's not a small amount. Your total service tax credits come to 1.5% or 1.75% for say IT company or ITES company. Now you are getting 3% from Government of India. You have to make the application and get it. Why you cannot be there? Why I cannot be there? You will make the application for them and get them the refund. Refund is a big area under GST. I think we will require the assistance of these people. I don't know where these will be there. GST is here. I see Moto song. I don't see anything more. This is only GST. I think we require to call them. Harsh. Harsh was with me for some time in Bangalore, and I hope he has learned a little of indirect taxes. उसमें एक पेन ड्राइव है छोटा सा जिप में फ्रंट. Any other question? Yes.
Sir, the Indian tax will remain?
No, Indian tax they have decided to subsume, and that is why that 1% additional tax to be retained is there. नहीं, छोटा सा है. They have included that 1% additional tax, no? That is going to be with the originating state, and that was the quid pro quo for dropping entry tax under GST. So it is going to, you got it? Chota.
Sir, what is the logic behind to make the GST as a destination bill instead of origination bill?
It is only a best practice. See, what happens is, what happens if you look at this origin or destination, it's only a principle. It's only a principle which we can look at. And if I were to look at, where I see this open folder, I will answer your question. I cannot do too many things at one time. I'm one of those non-multitaskers. Okay. So your thing was what is the logic to change it from origin to destination? Destination based principle is a principle. No, कर दिया है, हमने कर लिया. ये डाल के कर लिया. Thank you. So what throughout the world, see, just like IFRS, it's a single uniform method of doing business. Destination based tax is supposed to be for business. It's the best principle. Destination based tax has been proved to be the best way of taking tax forward for B2B, business to business. That is the best way of taking, administering tax. This is what is followed in advanced countries, and India also has decided to follow that. Remember, we want to do global trade. We are no longer saying that I will produce for West Bengal. Under GST, first of all, you say that I am producing for whole of India and whole of the world. So you have to be integrated to the world, and that's why the best principles I will take. I have not got deep into which is better and all, but I have felt that destination based certainly has its own advantages as far as business to business is concerned. You practice service tax? No. If you practice service tax, this particular issue you would have examined at many points of time, where you feel why this is there, this is not correct. The origin based is not correct. For example, when you provide service, say you do audit in Bangalore, you are doing an audit in Bangalore, physically you come to Bangalore and do the audit, then where should the taxes accrue? That is the question. So they say that the consumption based, destination based tax is the most logical method. That's what they say. I think there was one more question. Yeah.
sir, under clause 246A of the constitutional bill, state government has been empowered to make laws in respect of SGST, interstate transaction. So, interstate transaction. So, is there any dispute going to arise between the state government, central government, is state government given the power?
Yeah, it's a good question. See, what's going to happen now is this bill which is there before the parliament will be passed. Correct? It will only give the powers. Then there is a draft central law. There will also be a model state law, in which maybe there will be some flexibility for the states. Maybe 15% of the principles which are there, state can also make some changes. There is where the issue about state passing the law will come. So they will say that, there are 100 principles in GST, 85 principles cannot be changed. 15 principles will say state can have its own flexibility. So states may differ, so between one state and another. And there may be states, we don't know, states will ask for something which is not there in the law also to be changed. We don't know whether center will allow that. That is why the thought of making a GST council which will come into place after this law is passed. Say this law is passed in this month. If it is passed in this month, we are hopeful. Unlikely, but if it is passed in this month, then there will be a GST council. They will give the draft model law of the states. And each state will deliberate those 15% leeway, and then they will decide what the law should be. But 85% will still be the same across India. Again, these percentages which I am telling is just an ad hoc figure, it's not the real figure. Because I don't know how much leeway will be given. States are thinking no leeway will be given. That's why they are opposing it. Any other question in GST? Or I'll get into works contract. Shall I go? Yeah. Okay. I wanted to know how many of you are practicing in VAT? Okay, you have a few. How many of you are practicing in service tax? At least file one return? Yeah, okay. Little more are there, maybe double. That means the rest of you may require to have some basic information. My last 2 slides or 3 slides are the ones where value will come. The rest of it will be a prelude or a introduction to this particular subject. As far as works contract is concerned, there are various types of contracts. People have large number of agreements in different ways. And as far as works contract is concerned and VAT is concerned, actually this session was supposed to be after the VAT session, but I'll have to tell you something about VAT so that you will have a transition into service tax. As far as VAT is concerned, the tax can be only charged on the transfer of property. What is the transfer of property in a building? Transfer of property could be bricks, could be fans, could be your AC, could be steel, cement. These are all properties which the builder purchases. He purchases a particular goods and incorporates it into the building. Works contract need not be only building, it can be anything else also. Painting job, for example, on machine parts is a works contract. Powder coating, electroplating, all these are works contracts. So it need not be only building, it can be more. We will focus on building because that's the biggest chunk. 10% of the GDP of India is in the construction and real estate industry. So it is a significant part and most of our discussions will be there. Of course, in the question answer session, you could ask many more. Contracts could also be pure labor, where everything is supplied by the party. All the material is supplied by party, in which case there is no question of VAT, everything is liable only to service tax if there is no exemption. So then they can go for that. Whether that's the right thing or not, at the end of the session probably you'll get some ideas as to whether it is right or not. Local trends in this industry. What are the trends in my client? What choices he has made? So some history is required. Even in my consulting, in indirect taxes, my first question to my client is very keen to have a solution. He has a problem, somebody has referred, Madhukar is very knowledgeable. Only when he comes and meets me, he'll come to know whether I'm knowledgeable or not. And to what extent I am knowledgeable, because I have some assistant next to me whom I have to ask, what is this? There is some case in this, the assistant will tell the case. I think there was one mention of this. Yes, sir, para 33. These things I don't know. My assistants know. So only then they come to know, okay, this fellow may not be as knowledgeable as we think. But I've got little experience so I manage. So very important to understand about the client first. Even if the client is having hanging sword, you have to ask him what is his background, what has happened in the past, what are his future plans. Very, very important. Two more aspects. Who are his vendors? How does he do business? Is he, for example, he's put up a real estate concern, but he doesn't do any construction. Everything is outsourced. The whole object of consultancy will change because of that one aspect. Then it means you are not to consult him on his activity, you have to consult him more on his vendor's activity. He has to make his vendors follow the law. Otherwise, it will not be tax effective. Other side, who are his customers? What is the perception of the customers? For example, in 2009, there was a provision, there was a circular issued which said that residential property, personal use, there is no liability. At that time, nobody was willing to pay service tax to the builders. Today, people have accepted that they have to pay. So the customer is willing to pay. Now once customer is willing to pay, the whole tax planning changes. So my profiling of my customers is important. In fact, I look at not only my customers, I look at my customers' customers. I'll give you one example. 3 days back, I was with a person who is making particle boards. You know, whatever is there in this table underneath. Maybe in your chairs also particle boards are there. So my question to the client was, initially when I went, he said, sir, some furniture, sir, no credit, nothing is there. I could have accepted this and kept quiet and done my audit. Let me tell you what impact it would have had if I had done that. I didn't do that. I talked to him and said, no, you tell me where particle boards go. Whom do you sell to? He said, sir, हमारा 60% तो हम dealers को देते हैं. 60% of my material goes to dealers, 30% goes to the furniture manufacturers, and 10% goes to the end users. That is the houses and anybody else. Sure. I said, what is end user? I started with the smallest percentage of 10%. I came to know that end users, many of the end users want to be sure of the quality because this man is known for his quality. And therefore they want to ensure that they buy the particle board and give it to the carpenter. So I found most of the end users are in the ICT industry, information, communication, telecommunication industry. All of them can take credit if it is eligible. If it is eligible. So then for them it's not a cost. And then my question to myself was, how many ICT industries are taking credit on particle board? And my answer was maybe 1 in 1 lakh. Even in your own clients may not be taking. Will not be taking. Why may not be taking? This is the 10%. Then I went to the next level, which he said I sell 30% of my boards, particle boards go to the furniture manufacturers. I said, in these furniture manufacturers, how many are organized, how many are disorganized? He said, majority are disorganized. My next question was, in volume, how much do you sell to the organized? He said, 85% of my volume goes to the organized. Then the next question was, are they finding that their excise duty on their workstations, their excise duty on their chairs, is it a cost or not? Then the marketing director came, we had a 1 hour discussion, and he said, for them it's a cost. I said, why? Why should it be a cost? For example, you are a chartered accountant, you buy a chair, you buy furniture for an office, you spend 1 lakh rupees. There is 12,000 rupees of excise duty hidden in that. Are you taking credit of it? Why that, sir and madam? What about the laptop? Every one of us has laptop. Are we getting excise credit? Are we taking excise credit on this? It is certainly duty paid. Are we taking? These two examples are enough to tell you how much potential is there in this area. Because answer is none of us are taking. I took credit on furniture 4 years back and I wrote a letter to department also. I am taking credit on furniture. If you have any doubt, please write back to me. They decided not to litigate it because they know I will win the case and then it will become a landmark case for everybody. But let me also tell you, recently there is a decision of the tribunal in Infosys case where they say workstations are part of IT equipment. There is a tribunal decision in case of Infosys which says workstations are part of IT. Therefore, if it is part of IT, then credit can be availed by them. Or they can procure without paying the duty under the license. If so, this entire amount of 12.5 actually is possible to be cashed for that segment. Then I came to the dealers. When I came to the dealers, he said dealers to dealers. I asked another relevant question. How many of your dealers are registered under central excise to pass on the credit? He said again, majority are not registered. I said in volume how much is it? Because these are marketing people will know on this. Again they said 75% of the volume they pass on credit. Why? Because the furniture manufacturer wants credit, no. So only the last mile has not got connected. I said why don't you spend some money and get the last mile collected? Get the last mile connected. That means the duty on the particle board should be passed on to the furniture manufacturer or user and he should be enabled the credit. What is required for that? Maybe about 5 articles, 10 articles. Jayesh will write one, I will write one, somebody else will write one. It will be all on the net, everything is available. The whole perspective may change. Are you getting what I am saying? This is very, very important when you get into works contract. That's why it's very important to know what the client does before we get into even this. Then you can plan how to ensure that the cost is the lowest. For example, a contractor is there who has got a contract from a factory today. He has got a contract from a factory for 50 crores. If he were to do it himself, the factory would say you go under composition. In Karnataka it is 4%, so I use that example, 4% VAT under composition scheme. So this fellow who is builder is not taking any credit. On all his interstate purchases he pays the local taxes. On all his URD purchases he pays the taxes. But he doesn't take credit. Finally he charges the customer 4%. Now in this case what planning is possible? Order is there. Because the other side says I don't want any headache, give me this. Backward integration. Let him give a back-to-back contract to another agency to do this job. Whether one agency or 10 agencies. In which case, that agency can be under regular scheme. And under the regular scheme, the difference between the taxes cannot exceed 2.5%. At average will be 1.5%. 4% against 1.5% is 2.5% advantage, which is a huge amount in business. So if it's a 50 crore order, you're talking about that much proportionate, 2.5% of that as being becoming the net profit in that, just by having a subcontract. That is why we have to understand what business that person is and how he can benefit. I can go on in this example. If I go further, I can go to many other things which can be taken advantage by that particular corporate. For example, there will be in a construction of a factory, there will be a lot of other things. Electrical will be there, there will be lifts, hoists will be there. Ask the contractor to buy everything in the name of the company or consign it to the company and he will be the buyer. Buyer will be the company, he will be the consignee. Whichever way he does, he can ensure that all these capital goods credit 12.5% can accrue to the company. That is why I think it's very important to understand what is the business globally, then understand what is the business here in West Bengal, because your VAT rate will be different from Karnataka rate, maybe options could be different, so you'll have to look at it.
Sir,
yes?
I do not follow the examples you said about the subcontracting part. How do you benefit actually? I do not follow that.
See, yeah, I'll have to tell you that I'm getting into VAT now, but actually I said I'll speak after VAT because I didn't want to explain all this.
No, but
anyway,
it appears to be interesting. You can continue on his question. I think you all are enjoying it.
Yeah. Anything I speak will be interesting. And then this topic will not get over even by 5. But I will go ahead as per your request. let me come back to, I will go back to A now. I have a contract for 100 crores from, say, some one steel plant. 100 crores contract is there from a steel plant for only building factory, along with all the attendant parts of the factory. Okay, this is the contract I have. The party who has contracted with me, he cannot take credit. Under VAT law, you don't get credit for the building. Under central excise law also, you don't get credit for building. Machinery you get, building you don't get. So for the person who is taking the services from this contractor, there is no credit. If the contractor is going for cost plus taxes, which is the way he would have quoted, under the regular scheme he would pay approximately 10% he would charge as West Bengal VAT. Correct? Option is another one, which is composition. Obviously the company will choose all. He will say, what you do, I don't care, you have to give me composition bill. So on 100 crores, 4% I am willing to pay you. Beyond that, you do whatever you want. We are not going to pay. Now you want to make some money within this 4 crores. You are anyway collecting 4 crores from him. But you are paying so much of taxes on your purchases, which is not getting set off. So what you do is, you get into a contract. In this case, I am taking back to back to make it simple. Back to back, you get into a contract for 90 crores. Everything what you have to do, somebody else is doing. Maybe you are supplying some steel or some specialized equipment of 5 lakhs or 50 lakhs. So now, how is the taxation done? I am going back to Karnataka because I don't know, West Bengal I have not practiced. I am allowed to deduct the turnover of my subcontractor from my tax payment and only pay on the balance. That means, when I am going to bill my client, I am billing him 100 crores plus 4%, 4 crores composition tax. I am collecting 104. But I don't pay pay that 4 crores to the government, because under the Karnataka law, any tax which has been suffered in Karnataka, that turnover has to be excluded. In this case, 90 lakhs has to be excluded. So on that 90 lakhs, I don't pay 4%.
90 crores.
Pardon? 90 crores, I don't pay that 4%. On only 10 crores, I pay the 4%.
Same here.
Same here. So then it is exactly the same. Now you got it?
Yes.
So what happens is, on the balance, let's go to the subcontractor. Subcontractor never has all the cake. He gets a meager 5%, 10% उसके investment पर मिलेगा उसको. So subcontractor, he buys material worth 70 lakhs or 60 lakhs, and that material he takes credit. Under your West Bengal law also, there will be one standard deduction for labor, 30%. Is it the same?
25%.
Huh?
25%.
25%. So 90 into 25%. What is that? I don't know the mathematics.
22.
Huh?
22 and a half.
22. So 90 minus 22 is 68.
68.
On 68, he will pay the tax. But he has purchased goods at what? 60. So 8 lakhs is the amount on which he pays the West Bengal tax. Average, let's take 10%. On that, how much is it? 0.8. That means in this case, the cost of tax at the subcontractor's hand is only 0.8. Whereas how much I am collecting from my customer? 4. So I have saved 3.2% of 90, which is 2.7% I have put in my pocket without without getting out of any law. Within this same framework of law, I have got this benefit, which I don't have to, I don't have any problem. I can deduct this turnover here. I will charge him, I will collect from him. Everybody is fine.